Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? So glad to see you and to have you join me for today's Coffee Time Career Chat. All right. So, if you are joining for the very first time, my name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And what that means is that I love helping people to get to their next level in their career, in their business, by helping them to become better advocates for themselves, by helping them to feel more empowered where they are so that that can translate to the new role, new position, new responsibilities that they will have, and as well to make sure that they are appropriately incorporating the most underutilized resource that most people have. And that is their professional network. And so I work with people specifically to help them engage, develop, and strengthen their professional relationships so that they are sustainable for the long term and that they are very purposeful and aligned with their personal beliefs and values as they move forward in their professional career and growth. So that said, welcome. And we are cruising right along here for this month, and we are starting on a new topic, and it's going to be a two-parter because when I kind of looked at where we are in today's marketplace and literally the time of the year, there are a lot of graduates coming out. There are a lot of people shifting in their professional relationships and their careers, very much so. So I wanted to get into addressing this concept of networking into new beginnings. And so today will be part one, and next week you will see part two of that session. And today's session, we're really going to focus on more of the, what is the word, kind of the philosophical things behind the scenes, because a lot of times this is where we get caught up, and these are the things that will keep us from moving forward. So it doesn't really matter if you have all the best strategies and tactics in the world, if your mindset is jacked up and you don't know where to go, or you're feeling stuck even in the midst of such a great transitional time. So that's what we're going to focus on this time. And then next week, we'll talk about some very specific strategic moves and activities that you can take, the actual actions that you can take as you move forward in your new environment, your new opportunities, and all of that stuff. So that said, one of the first things that came to me in looking at trying to address this topic is the fact that while at the same time it can be really seen, like this is great. I'm so, super excited about being able to move into a new role or to assume a new responsibility. Quite frankly, the feeling that truly comes up first is fear, right? It normally is like, oh my God, what if I can't do this? Oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? Or, some such thing. It's very common. It's absolutely human. And it's not something that should be ignored because unfortunately, what people will do is try to brush it off and then say, oh, that's ridiculous or whatever. Guess what? Your feelings are your feelings and you have to address them. It doesn't mean that they have to drive the bus. Those of you who know, I use this analogy all the time, is that you can, fear can come along for the ride, but fear is not driving, right? You're driving. So that said, it's that same thing of acknowledging and reframing fear as excitement instead, right? Because just because you have that tickle in your gut doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It can also be, that you're excited about what's moving forward. And so let's move forward with that presumption rather than one of, oh my gosh, this something bad's going to happen as a result of this. Let's not go with that mindset. Let's reframe it with a positive light, use that energy to move forward in the new thing. So how are you going to do that, right? First of all, is how I love journaling. So you must get your handy dandy notebook, handy dandy notebook, and make sure and write down those things that cause you concern or that are, that you find exciting. Okay. You don't want to ignore either one. You don't want to ignore either one. You need to acknowledge the fact that there is some fear there, again, because you're human and it is natural for that to bubble up and for you to question yourself. Even though you may have worked hard for it, you may have really set yourself up for this moment, that may still pop up. Okay. So don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. So get your journal, get some paper, get some notes, write it down. All right, as well as the flip side of that, which is what about this now excites you, right? What led you to this point that you're like, oh my gosh, this is so fantastic? And you can still say, I can't believe this is actually happening. But let's move forward with positive energy regarding that, not negative. Okay. So that's definitely the first thing. The second thing is, make sure you talk to someone. And this may depend on where you are in the process. Like let's say if it's a new process and you haven't quite, you're not really there to sharing it with other people publicly. If you have a confidant, if you have an accountability partner, if you have a really close, professional friend that you can confide in or personal one, then confide that in that person. Make sure you're clear about, hey, I'm not sharing this publicly yet, but I really need to kind of get this energy out. And that really helps us a lot of times to put things in the proper perspective, right? I'm going to say proper perspective rather than the right one, because um, a lot of times it's not a matter of it being right or wrong. It's just about it being appropriate for where you are. Does that make sense? And so, because a lot of times if we start talking about things in terms of what's right or wrong, then that generates a whole bunch of other, potentially negative things or blocking. And that's not what we're trying to do. But let's say what's appropriate for the moment. And so when you get to that, what's appropriate for the moment perspective, and have some conversations with people that you trust, even if it's just one. Here's the reality: just getting that off your chest for most people is so powerful. And it's really like, woosah, like, okay. And it makes it real. First of all, it makes it real for them because they've expressed it to another person. And now you can get more grounded in the realities of, okay, this is happening. What do I need to know? What do I need to do next? Okay. So make sure that you're reframing, the opportunity from fear to excitement, and that you are, making sure that you document what causes you concern, that's bringing that, angst or that fear up, but then also the excitement piece of it and what you're excited about with this new opportunity and how you can build from it. And then ultimately, sharing, having a quick conversation with someone that you trust, about what's happening so that you can be able to get grounded and be ready for what's next. All right. So that's the first point when you're networking into new beginnings. The second thing is you have to make sure that you're ready to explore with fresh eyes. This is one of those things that catches people off guard, and I'll tell you why. Because whether you are a new graduate and you're ready to go into your first job, or you're transitioning because you've been working in the workplace for a minute, or you're at another level and you're transitioning into a greater responsibility, whatever it may be, the importance of addressing things with fresh eyes is crucial. Here's the reason why: you do not want to get caught up in old baggage. Now, that's not to say you cannot or that you should not acknowledge what's happened before, as it laid a foundation for where you are today. All right. I'm always going to say that you have to acknowledge what's gone on before, acknowledge it as a part of the foundation of who you are professionally and maybe personally, and how it affects your perspective. But what you do not want to do is bring things forward with that assumption that that's the way things are going to be and how things are going to be influenced moving forward. Does that make sense? So Here's the reason why. Again, you do not want to be limited in your mindset. Just like we needed to reframe that fear to excitement, we also need to reframe our previous situation into our new situation, because there are things that may be relevant from our past experiences, but not to the point that they are the only things that should direct. You need to be able to look anew with where you're going and be willing to do so. So, in other words, take the blinders off. Because when you're starting a new job, a new role, a new business, what you do not want to do is go in with blinders on. You want to be able to have as broad a view as possible. Now, there's going to be someone out there who's going to say, oh, no, you need to focus, focus, focus. Here's the thing: when you're starting fresh, if you focus in too closely, you're going to miss out on some things. And we'll talk about that in a second. You're going to miss out on some things. So it's not to say that you're taking the blinders off so that you can go do everything. That's not what I said. It's so that you can see and be open to receiving those things that you otherwise might not have seen, right? There may be new opportunities, there may be new people, all of that come as a result of this fresh start, of this new beginning, this new job, this new role. Okay. And you want to be able to observe, take in all of those things so that then you can make an informed decision later about what doesn't fit, what's not aligned, what to exclude. And I say that because you know how strongly I feel about um, taking action that's sustainable. Because you may have or come across something that's not a good fit for today, but that does not mean that you should exclude it when it comes up again in 3 years or maybe even a year. But if you put the blinders on, you don't even know that and have that as an option. And you don't know that that's going to repeat itself and show up again. So, this is why it's important when you're starting fresh, right? Whether you're a brand newbie straight out of school or you're someone who's leveling up into a new role and new responsibilities, is make sure that you are exploring things with fresh eyes, that you are open to receiving some new things, okay, so that you can make those informed decisions about what to move forward with today versus something that may be, when this is a strategic planning term, when you put something on a parking lot, right? Which means you're like, that's not appropriate for right now, but I may need to come back to that. So let's put that in the parking lot versus something that you actually was like, this is not aligned with who I am, what I'm planning to do, or whatever. All right. That is the important distinction that has to be made in this process. Okay. And there's so many new things going on. The last thing you want to do is like, oh my gosh. And this is not to have you be overwhelmed. Okay. It's to have you, take in those things. And it may seem a little overwhelming, but again, when you're taking your time, this is not about jumping straight in. This is about taking things in, being observant, so that then you can make those decisions where you can distribute things as they need to be when it comes to professional relationships, opportunities, whatever it may be. Okay. All right. So that's the second thing. Make sure that you're willing to explore with fresh eyes. The third thing that we're going to talk about today is being open to making a new commitment. Now, someone might say, wait a minute, aren't we talking about the fact that I'm already starting a new job or a new project or whatever it may be? Yes. But even within that, there may be opportunities that you were not privy to previously. There may be new people, new mentors, new opportunities that you were not privy to before. And so that's going to bring up this possibility of making a commitment to something even within the new job. Okay. So let's say, for example, you're starting a brand new project. whatever, and you're getting, an opportunity to, lead a committee within that. Okay. Or let's say you've up leveled in a position and you are in a senior role now in your organization. And so you're like, okay, there's so many things going on and I'm doing it. But there may come this opportunity to either, let's say, mentor someone, all right, or maybe in the marketplace, now that you're considered a leader in this industry, this topic, or whatever, and so you may be asked to take on another leadership role in that. Okay. Now, don't be afraid to make a new commitment, but do be very deliberate about it. Okay. So that's to say, don't jump at the first thing that comes out, because the likelihood of you getting exposed and offered to do a lot of things is high. And here's the reason why: people love fresh blood, right? New energy. So it's like, oh, can you do this? And oh, we need you to do that. Okay. Even if you are fresh out of college, be deliberate about the new opportunities that you take on. We have a habit, especially as newbies, to take on a lot of things, and then we wear ourselves out, we burn out, or we find out, we've taken on something and it's not a good fit. So even if you are fresh in your new role as a brand new person versus someone who's taking on a brand new leadership role, don't feel obligated to take on everything that comes your way. Okay. But because you've taken a good opportunity to gain a new perspective and to explore with fresh eyes, like we talked about in the second point, here's now your opportunity to decide, okay, I'm going to take on a new commitment that is aligned with where you want to go with this position in your career, with your profession, right, in your business. And that will also feed you in terms of professional growth. And when you think of things in those terms, right? What's going to help you with your professional growth personally, but that also is aligned with where you're headed or where you want to go professionally or with the new job, if it's giving you exposure to some new leaders, some new opportunities, things like that, that will help you to narrow that focus um, naturally, as opposed to just jumping in and saying yes to everything, right? Be deliberate, be willing to say no if it's an option. Now, if your boss is telling you, hey, we need you to go do X, then dig deeper, right? Maybe you don't have the option of telling your new boss no on this new project, but be really specific and clear about what the role entails and whether it's going to potentially conflict with other things that may come up, or if it's going to be said like, hey, you want me to give 100% to this, or am I giving 20% because something else is coming along the way? All right. Ask the questions. So be okay with making a new commitment, but be deliberate about making that choice and or asking the right questions to know where your role, with your time, what your personal commitment needs to be to it within the perspective of this experience. Okay. So there we are. We're networking into new beginnings, and we've gone with a little bit more philosophical approach this time. And next week, we'll talk more about, in part two, about some of the specific strategic actions that you should take when you are going into a new role. Okay. And I love that part because I've been working with a few clients specifically on this. It's super exciting. And it's work that applies whether you are first starting out as a brand new graduate or someone who's leveled up and you're you're further along in your career, some of those foundational things remain true regardless. And I'll be sharing a little bit of that with you in next week's session. So there we are, how time flies when you're having fun. I look forward to following up with you all. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to hit me up in the comments or in the DM as usual. And if you're interested in setting up a consultation to help you facilitate some transitions that you're going through professionally, happy to have a chat with you and look forward to following up with you later. Okay, take care, and I'll talk with you all later. Bye bye.